going deep into an ancient story from Genesis, actually. It's about Hagar, and her journey holds this, well, surprisingly powerful message about divine grace. You know, I saw this news photo recently. It really stuck with me. From that school shooting in Minnesota, it was the back of a mom running barefoot across a busy road, just desperate to get to her child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you could almost feel it, you know, her breathing, ragged, heart pounding, just raw fear in that one image. It screamed desperation. And it made me think of another mother from way back, feeling that same kind of awful hopelessness. Hagar, out in the wilderness watching her son die.
Exactly. And that's really our focus today. We want to pull out the key insights from Hagar's story. It's not just about her despair, but also how her story, well, it turns ancient social ideas completely upside down. We'll look at her status, basically a non-person, her struggles, and crucially, her encounters with a God who actually sees and hears the forgotten.
Okay, so let's really put ourselves there. Genesis 21, verses 14 to 16. It's stark. Abraham sends Hagar and Ishmael away. Just bread and water.
Barely anything.
Right. She's lost in the wilderness of Beersheba. Then the water runs out. She puts her son, who's dying under a bush, then walks off maybe 100 yards or so. A bowshot's distance, the text says.
Because she can't bear to watch.
She just can't watch him die, sits down and just sobs, totally broken. It's unimaginable pain. So what pushed her to this point? What was her life like before this?
Well, to really get Hagar's desperation, you have to understand her social standing, or maybe the total lack of it. The sources are clear. She wasn't just unimportant. She was basically considered nothing at all.
Nothing.
Pretty much. If she and Ishmael had just disappeared out there, honestly, no one would have mourned them or even remembered them. She was a slave, first in Egypt, then Abraham and Sarah picked her up when they were down there. And remember, they weren't Israelites themselves at that point.
Right, so she's an outsider slave in another foreign land.
Exactly, which just made her terrible situation even worse. Non-Israelites often face, extra contempt, barely seen as human.
It's actually chilling how some ancient nomadic cultures talked about slaves. There were these sayings, like a slave is like a fetus.
Meaning undeveloped, not fully formed.
Yeah, or even an entity never born as a human, and maybe the worst one. After death, merely an object to be removed.
Wow. Just
it's complete dehumanization written into the culture.
Precisely. She physically existed, but it was like she didn't. Think about it. Abraham and Sarah never even use her name. She's always just servant.
Never Hagar.
Never. She's a non-person, totally pushed aside. And crucially, she had nowhere else to go, running away. Where would a slave find safety or rights? Her whole existence depended on them, but they wouldn't even grant her basic humanity.
Okay, so if she was that invisible, that marginalized, how did she suddenly become the center of this huge conflict in the household? What happened?
Well, the spark was her pregnancy with Abraham's child.
Ah.
See, back then, if a slave woman had her master's child, she might get a slight bump in status, maybe even become a concubine.
Which could cause problems with the main wife, I imagine, especially a barren wife like Sarah.
Absolutely. It was a known issue, so much so that the Code of Hammurabi, that ancient law code,
yeah,
it actually had laws about how to demote an insolent concubine back down to slave status if she got too big for her boots, so to speak.
So this wasn't just a one-off family drama. It was a recognized social tension point.
Exactly. And Genesis 16.5 spells it out. Hagar knew she was pregnant and began to despise her mistress Sarah.
That's complex, isn't it? I mean, Hagar, always looked down on, suddenly has this bit of leverage. Maybe she showed it, a look, a tone.
It's very human, right?
Yeah.
Probably not wise, maybe even selfish.
Yeah.
But you can understand her reacting that way after everything, trying to claim some dignity.
But Sarah,
who, let's remember, suggested this whole thing. She exploded. The Hebrew word used for the insult Sarah felt, it actually implies violence.
So Sarah felt violated.
Yes. And she responded with even greater violence. This wasn't just telling her off. It was aimed at crushing Hagar's body and spirit, breaking her.
Just awful. And Hagar couldn't take it.
No. The abuse, the violence. She fled, ran into the wilderness.
Trying to escape.
And right here, this is where something profound happens.
Yeah.
It's this idea of the gaze of God.
Okay.
Even as she's running, even though, yes, she'd also acted wrongly, despising Sarah, God's attention is fixed on her. And the sources really emphasize the grace here. It says, without any explanation, God's grace pursued her. She didn't earn it. It just came after her.
That idea of grace pursuing us, even when we're messed up, when we feel we don't deserve it, that really hits home, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We all have those moments, acting out of hurt, or selfishness. But the story shows God just relentlessly follows, never takes his eyes off us, keeps pouring out grace.
It's radical.
Totally. You don't earn his love. He just loves you anyway. His gaze is always there. Always.
And you see this intervention so clearly in Genesis 16, verse 7. The angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, the spring on the way to shore.
Sure. That was the way to Egypt, right? Her home country.
Exactly. And that word, found, a better translation, is actually sought her out. It wasn't accidental. God actively intervened, purposefully stepped into her path, blocked her way almost.
Wow. And just picture her journey up to that point. Pregnant, probably barefoot, walking something like 186 miles across that brutal desert. Alone.
Utterly desperate.
Yeah. Which brings up that question we sometimes ask, doesn't it? Why did God wait?
Right. Why let her suffer through all those miles? Why wasn't he there sooner? We feel that frustration sometimes. Where are you, God, in my pain?
Definitely.
But the insight here, I think, is that God never took his eyes off her, not for a second. From the moment she fled, he was with her like a parent watching closely every step. He didn't just stumble upon her. He met her right at her breaking point, at the very edge of what the text calls a desert of death past shore. Any further, and she wouldn't have made it.
So the timing was actually perfect. A rescue.
A precisely timed halt. For her salvation, really. He was there the whole time.
Okay, and this encounter, this is where things really shift for Hagar, right?
Massively. In Genesis 16:8, the angel asks her, Hagar, Sarai's servant, where have you come from and where are you going?
And the key thing there, he uses her name, Hagar.
Exactly. Think about it. No one called her that. To Abraham and Sarah, she was just servant.
An object, almost.
But here, the divine voice singles her out. Hagar. Suddenly, this forgotten non-person is acknowledged. Her life, treated as worthless, is declared precious. God isn't asking because he needs directions. He's saying, Hagar, I know you. I know every single moment of your life, every step, every breath. You matter profoundly to me.
Wow.
You are not alone. You're not abandoned. You're not meant to just disappear. It's this incredible declaration of her worth.
That's such a powerful message, especially if you've ever felt invisible, lost in a crowd, overlooked at work, maybe even unseen in your own family. Hagar's story reminds us that, before God, we're not just noticed. We're called precious. Our value isn't based on what other people think. It's declared by him. We're like jewels, priceless, irreplaceable.
And that grace, it often shines brightest on the small, the overlooked, the outcast, right? There's huge comfort in knowing he sees us, loves us, despite everything.
Absolutely. And it doesn't stop there. He doesn't just see her.
No, he hears her too. Look at verse 11. You are pregnant and will have a son. You are to name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard your misery.
Ishmael, meaning God hears.
Precisely. A slave's cries. In that culture, they meant nothing. Her job was to obey silently. But now, she meets someone who actually listens, who hears her anguish. God hears her misery.
That's another thing we all long for, isn't it? To be truly heard. Sometimes you feel like you're talking, but no one's really listening. Your spouse, your friends.
That feeling of being unheard is so isolating. But the promise is, our Lord hears everything. And he doesn't just hear, he responds. The Psalms are full of this. Psalm 18, in my distress I called, he heard my voice. Psalm 34, the righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. Psalm 55, evening, morning, and noon I cry out, and he hears my voice.
He rushes to our cries.
Every time. For Hagar, a slave, to have her specific misery heard by God, you just flipped her whole world upside down.
And this experience leads her to give God a name, right?
Yes, an incredibly personal name, Genesis 16:13. She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me. For she said, I have now seen the one who sees me.
El Roy, the God who sees me.
El Roy. It's more than just sight. It means the God who watches over me, the God who cares for me, the God who remembers me. Think about Hagar's life. It was all about her watching over and caring for others, meeting their needs, being invisible herself.
Right.
But now, for the first time ever, she meets someone who truly sees and cares for her. She experiences the one who heard her groans, saw her pain, and valued her life.
A complete transformation.
But remarkably, it wasn't just a one-off rescue.
Oh, it happens again.
Yes, about 17 years later, history repeats itself. Hagar and Ishmael are kicked out again by Abraham and Sarah.
Again, after all that.
Again. Facing death again, this time in the wilderness of Beersheba. It was maybe only 30 or 40 miles from home this time. Still, they were outcasts.
Oh, the pain for Hagar. Seeing her son, now a young man, dying again after all the promises, that must have been almost worse.
Unbearable, surely. A cruel echo. Yet even in that renewed crisis, God's loving gaze hadn't left them. The scripture says God heard the boy crying, Ishmael this time, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven. What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying. Get up, take the boy, hold him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation.
God heard the boy too.
Yes, this child, an outcast from birth. God heard his cries. And then it says, God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water he provided. Again.
He opened her eyes. She couldn't see it before.
Apparently not. He intervened directly, gave them water, saved their lives. And the text adds, God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an expert archer.
So the promise held.
It reinforces that core theme. Hagar and Ishmael, pushed aside by people, were always central in God's sight. And remember that earlier prophecy, that Ishmael would be like a wild donkey.
Meaning free, untamed.
Exactly. He lived freely in the desert, unbound, an expert archer. Hagar and Ishmael, who'd known only the restricted life of slaves, were given the free, expansive life they must have dreamed of. A life defined by God's purpose, not human limits.
Wow. So the ones forgotten and disrespected by everyone, they became precious to God. They weren't side characters. They were the main characters in their own story where God's grace and gaze never left them.
A complete reversal.
So, okay, bringing this all together, what does this deep dive into Hagar mean for us right here, right now? If God is El Roy, the God who sees and hears, how does that change things for us?
Well, it means he comes to us too, right? In our own wilderness moments. He asks us gently, where have you come from? Where are you going? Not because he doesn't know, but to remind us. He's with us. He knows our journey intimately. He sits with us when we feel alone and desolate. He lifts us up when we fall.
He says,
I hear you. I've heard your pain. I've heard your groans. Your cries have reached me.
And knowing that, being seen and heard like that, it has to shape how we live, right? Our perspective, our path needs to align with his will.
That's the crucial next step, isn't it?
Yeah.
If we really take Hagar's story to heart, we see God's gaze always turns towards the weak, the left out, the powerless.
Like Hagar.
Exactly. Towards those needing comfort, needing care. His attention flows that way.
So our attention, our hearts, our actions, they need to flow that way too. Towards the Hagars in our own world.
That's the practical outcome, yes. If our perspective, our heart, our life's direction moves towards the overlooked and vulnerable.
Then we're becoming more like him.
Exactly. We're not just receiving his grace. We're reflecting it.
My prayer then for all of us this week is that we truly cherish this truth, that God sees us, he hears us, and that we'd really try to walk in a way that reflects him, reflecting his grace more and more. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.
And maybe just one final thought to carry with you. Think about the places in your own life, those personal wildernesses, where you feel invisible or unheard. How might really embracing El Roy, the God who sees and hears you, how might that not only bring you comfort, but actually change how you see and hear the seemingly invisible people around you this week?